Hello and welcome to the Microsoft Build 2016 Session Lightning Talk. I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of what the best things I got out of going to Microsoft Build this year. So I'm going to go over some tips, kind of practical tips for going to the convention and tips for if you ever go to Build in the future. I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of some of my favorite sessions there. I'm not going to go too much in depth to any of the sessions there. I'm just going to give you guys a taste of what the coolest things are so you can look at them on your own. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the HoloLens. I got to try that there. And I'm going to give you my final thoughts on what I thought of the convention as a whole and whether or not it's really worth going to in the future. Alright, so here's some tips for going to Build. So, as for the sessions, I found out that there's a lot of repeat sessions. Some of the more popular sessions are repeated 3, 4, even 5 times. So if there's a session you really want to go to, check to see if it's going to pop up again later on the day, and you might be able to catch some of the sessions that aren't repeated so much in the meantime. As new as of this year, there's a series of hands-on sessions, and what these were they're little sessions where you got to go in and actually do some coding. But the issue is they were very popular and they're very limited space, so if you want to actually get into one of these sessions, you have to go to the session about a half hour ahead of time, wait in line to get a ticket for the session, and then come back during the session time to actually get into the session. I was turned away from a few of these before I kind of figured out that was the process, and it wasn't mentioned anywhere beforehand, so heads up if they're doing that again next year. As for the vendor room, so the vendor room was filled with about half Microsoft vendors and staff and then half about other vendors. I found I actually got a lot out of talking to the Microsoft staff there. They went over a lot of cool stuff in the keynote there, and talking to the Microsoft vendors, you got a lot more detail on what they showed off in the keynote and some more resources for where you could continue learning about those things if you'd like. So I would definitely recommend talking to them, and especially if you've got questions about a particular product you're using. The rest of the vendor hall was filled with other vendors there, and you could find ones you talk to if you think they're related to your product. What they'd done with this previously, or what you do with this, is the more vendors you talk to, you get points, and you can, if you had a certain number of points, you get entered into a Surface Book. But they weren't giving a lot of those away, so it's not really worth your time to do that if you're just trying to get points. But if you want to get some free T-shirts from them, go see them early, because they have a lot of stuff to give away there too. As for the parties, so Microsoft has their one sponsored party. And on Thursday night, you can see that in the bottom right here. They got tons and tons of people there. These people are using blowtorches to heat up mini pizzas there. And just dress warmly for that, because you're going to be outside a lot and you're going to be waiting in a lot of lines. There are several other parties there that were less publicly announced. If you'd signed up to pre-order the HoloLens, you didn't actually have to order it. Just to say you were pre-ordering it, you got into the secret HoloLens party early on. So for future conferences, look out for stuff like that beforehand. You might be able to get a couple extra things out of the convention. And look on Twitter as well. Xamarin hosts their own party, and there was posted on Twitter there, so I got to check that out as well. Alright, so I'm going to jump into the first session here, which is Visual Studio debugging tips. So these are just kind of a few advanced tips and tricks for debugging in Visual Studio. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a copy of Visual Studio here. And I've got a test application running here, and what that is just loaded up this little list page with some movies on it. And I'm just going to show you guys some of the debugging tips using this. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the peek at definition function. So normally when you press, you look at an object and you want to know more about it. So say I want to know more about what this movie object is, you can press F12, and that directs you over to that object. That's nice, but sometimes you want to not leave where you left off to find out that information. So what you can do is you press Alt F12, and it opens up a little window inside of where the current pane you're on, and so you can kind of look at that object quick, and then continue where you've left off without leaving. So the other thing is the debugger display attribute. So whenever you make an object and you're trying to look through it in Visual Studio in the debugger, sometimes you hover over it. the information you get out of it isn't very helpful. So let's go ahead and get to a breakpoint in my application here. So now I refresh the page, and so now we're looking at some of the stuff in here. So, if I'm looking at this object here, it's not very helpful. If I actually want to see what's going on, I have to start opening it up, and I have to go into some of these objects, find out what's in them. And so if you just want something, if there's an important piece of information about an object you always want to have access to, you could use this debugger display attribute. So if I go back to our movie object, and I just added this attribute up here, and what this is you just pass in, you set up the type of information you want to see, and whenever you look at that object in the debugger, you're going to see that as kind of a little summary there. So I said I want to say title equals, and then I'm using the curly braces here to indicate a variable, which is in this case title. And so whenever I'm hovering over a movie object in here, you can see that I see the text title equals, and then the actual title of that object. So this is great if this, say this title is something really important about this object, and you just want to always see this when you're debugging. You could set up that debugger display attribute like this to always see that information. Handy little shortcut. So another thing I want to show you guys is the immediate window. And what the immediate window here is it's a place where you can actually run code during the execution of your application. So I'm at a breakpoint right now, and if I wanted to see, if I wanted to run some code in here, I could. So I could just start typing in. I can write in expressions, and it gets me the results. So I did 1 + 2 = 3, or I could access local variables. So if I want to see, say we've got this movies list, if I just wanted to see what that was, I can use that. I can use autocomplete there. It tells me what those things are. So that's nice. So if you'd already been using the immediate window, so what's new with it now is that you can execute lambda expressions in there. And this is an example of a lambda expression right here. If you try to run these before, you get a message saying that lambda expressions weren't supported. So I'm going to try that down here. So let's find a movie where the title contains the word win. There we go. We see our result right here. So now that's a new thing you can do in the immediate window there. Is call lambda expressions. So the next thing I want to show you is conditional breakpoints. So when you're debugging code, say you're inside of a loop and you don't want if you're inside of a loop and you have a breakpoint set in there like this, you're going to hit that breakpoint every time you go through the loop. Say you only want it to stop on a specific value, what you could do is you could set up a condition on your breakpoint. So once you set up a breakpoint, like I do here, if you right click on that breakpoint and do conditions, you see this little window pop up in here. And it comes up with this drop down that says conditional expression is true. So you can mess with this and try to play around with it and see what all you can do with it. But say, for example, if I wanted to say, hey, we're looping through this list of movies and I want this to stop when, let's say, like movie title is equal to when. There we go. So now you'll see this breakpoint's got a little plus in it. It means it's a conditional breakpoint. So now if we're running this code again, and if we found we wouldn't stop on this line unless the movie was equal to when, or at least that movie title wasn't equal to when. Next thing I want to show you, get rid of that, is the run the cursor feature. So sometimes you're debugging code and you've stepped down several functions and you just want to run it to a certain point without adding a whole bunch of breakpoints. You could just right click on your line of code and you could say run to cursor, or Control F10 there, and it'll just execute the code until you get to that line. So that's a nice little shortcut. And yeah, those are some of my favorite things I got out of that session there. So we go back to this guy. If you want to see what else they talked about in that session there, I recommend checking out the Channel 9 video for that. And what these Channel 9 videos are is Microsoft recorded all the sessions that went on Build there. And I'm going to be linking those here throughout the presentation. So if you ever want to check out and get more details or see the full hour-long or so session, go ahead and check those out. Alright, so that's it for that session. So the next one I want to jump into is the Microsoft Bot Framework. So what is it? This is a new framework created by Microsoft to easily create interactable chatbots. So I'm just going to show you a video of what they showed off in the build keynote there to give you an idea of what it's like.
Bot framework. To show you what it's like, I put together a simple bot that orders me a pizza from Domino's. This is going to be great. You're all going to get to see some code, and I get to order myself lunch. And here's the source code for my bot. When a user sends my bot a message, the bot framework calls into this method right here. And if the user said /order, we drop into this block of code, where first I put together my pizza, a medium hand tossed with spinach and mushrooms. Then I put that pizza into an order where I've specified the delivery address and a credit card that I found. It's okay. Satya assures me he's buying. And then I place the order to Domino's secure REST API. Now, since I'm dealing with a credit card, I don't want to transmit that in plain text. And so I want to make sure that it's sent securely over a secure channel. To try out our bot, I'm going to show you my bot's web page in our bot directory. Now, it can be really hard to try out new bots. So as part of the bot framework, we've included a reusable and securable chat control that developers can put in their own web pages so customers can talk directly with their bots. Let's try it out. I'll say hi to my bot, and it'll respond. And if I say /order, it'll take just a second, and there we go. My order's on its way. Now, this is This is great for simple bots, but interesting bots need real dialogue and language skills so that they can hold a real conversation. I want my bot to be able to accept an order from a real customer where they can specify the size of their pizza, the toppings, and more. And you heard Satya talk about trustworthiness. It's important for my bot to get the user's permission before it actually sends the order on its way to Domino's. Now, this is where our Bot Builder SDK really shines. Our Bot Builder SDK is available in Node.js and C#, but I'm writing in C#, so I'll show you that. To use our Bot Builder SDK, I'm just going to remove the existing simple bot code that I've got and add in a couple of lines here. And then up at the top, where I've configured the Bot Builder SDK so that my bot talks the way I want it to. I've added a welcome message, a confirmation prompt, and then actually added in the code to place the order. The Bot Builder SDK does all the work of walking my user through filling in the object that represents my pizza, which I've defined as a plain C# object with a few annotations. Now, next, we're going to actually connect my bot to users. So I'm going to go to my bot's dashboard in our developer portal in the bot framework. You can see here it's easy to connect my bot up to services like Skype, Slack, Telegram, and others. We built the bot framework to be an open platform, and so we include many third-party services.
So that just gives you guys a little overview of what the bot framework like and what it's doing. If I jump back here, you can see that this Bot Builder SDK makes it really simple to interact with your bot. I mean, it just provides an easy way to code up your bot there, to be able to talk with it and fill out these. Basically, what these bots are going to be doing is they're going to be filling out forms, and you're going to be getting user information from the user to fill out this form, and then you're going to be walking them through the form, and then continually talking with them to try to get everything you need, and then sending that information off to somewhere where it's useful. So, just launch this up again. So that's a quick example of the Bot Builder SDK and the bot framework there. You can find other examples on this Microsoft's bot framework site. They've got some ones that are fun to play around with there, so I'd recommend checking those out. And what all can you use them well? You kind of saw at the end there. You can use them. You can hook them up to Skype, make Skype bots, Slack bots. You can hook them up with Cortana, text message, and a whole bunch of other options out there. So how much is it? How can I get started with it? The framework is free and is open source. And in fact, they even list out their GitHub page, and you can see the Bot Builder SDK here. You can branch it. You can contribute to it, whatever you'd like to do. So it's completely free to use there. The bot connector, if you want to use those hooks with Slack and SMS and all those things, I think you have to post it up to Azure, but that seemed like a free service as well. So if you want to get started with it, you can use C# and Node.js, is what they have written in. And how easy is it to get started? They have really detailed documentation and full examples for you to get started with it. So I'll go look at some of those real quick here. And so say if we want to look at the bot builder for C# and we wanted to look at some of the dialogues, they walk you through creating a Echo bot right here, and they've got lots of code examples to kind of walk you through step by step several different ways to put these bots together. So it looks like it'd be pretty easy to get started with it if you wanted to play around with it. And if you want to check out some other resources with the bot framework, I list them out at the bottom here. So the next session I want to go over to is a session on Microsoft Cognitive Services. So these cognitive services are kind of unveiled at the keynote this year. It's a suite of APIs created by Microsoft, and there's a whole bunch of different APIs out there. So I'm just going to open this guy up and show you some examples. So if I look up here, and you can see a whole list of all the APIs out there, and they're kind of organized into 5 different categories here: vision, speech, language, etc. And to get you guys an idea of what these are doing, I'm just going to open up one that I really found interested in and played around with the convention there, which is the Emotion API. So for all these APIs, you'll, as with any other API, you'll be sending data up, and you'll be getting, in this case, Microsoft sends a JSON string back with the results of whatever you're looking for. And so this one, for the Emotion API, you're sending an image, and Microsoft's API has used machine learning to try to figure out what emotions people are feeling in those images. So you can see the examples down here. The Emotion API is picked out that there are several faces in this picture, and it's going to give them a score on what emotion it thinks they're feeling. A score from scale from 0 to 1 there. So you see this one's got anger, contempt, disgust, fear. Those are all 0, and happiness is 1. So it thinks it's pretty much 100% positive that this person's feeling happy. If you look at the other faces in this picture, you can see they're about the same numbers. And if you look at the JSON, you can see it tells you where the face is located, and it can tells you the scores for each of the 8 emotions that it scores on there. And if you just look at another example, you can see this one, he's feeling, there's surprise at 0.85 there. And so it's I found that it did a pretty good job of picking out your emotions there when you're trying it out at the little kiosk that build. So that's an example of one of these little APIs. There's a whole bunch of them out there, as I said before. There's things for face detection, speech recognition, searches, things like that. So, and kind of the other thing they're hitting on with these APIs is that they could be used in combination with each other. So if you want to, say, have someone log into an application with their face, you could use their face API, which detects whether or not 2 faces are the same. And then you could use the Emotion API to see if they're happy or sad, and then maybe display like some sort of quote based on how they're feeling. So one of the APIs I wanted to go into a little more detail was their language understanding API, which is called LUIS. So the LUIS stands for Language Understanding Intelligent Service. And what it is, it's an easy way to turn natural language into something that's usable for filling out forms, or is more usable by computers. And I'm just going to show you guys their promotional video, because it gives you a good idea of what it's doing and what it's for.
LUIS, the Language Understanding Intelligence Service, enables developers to build self-learning, language understanding models easily.
Schedule a meeting with Carol tomorrow at 3. Find me good deals on black dresses.
Okay, what size?
Medium. Sarah's next vaccine?
March 2016.
It's simple.
So that kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with it. You could have a bot that understands natural human language, and then you could turn it into something useful. And instead of watching them walk through how that's done here, I've got one set up myself there, and I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to get this set up. So I'll walk you through their online interface. And all you do is you go to this LUIS.ai site, and then you can sign up for a free account, and then you can start creating these language understanding models. So kind of like with the pizza bot there, I create my own example for ordering pizza. So if I click into that, and you can see that these intents, these are kind of the different actions users are going to be able to do in your application. So I created one for just ordering a pizza. You could, if you want your application to do more than that, maybe schedule a time for it to be delivered after they've ordered their pizza. You could add different intents for that. So I have intent for order here, and I defined what all the different parameters are for that order. So I want to say there's sizes, topping, and the number of pizzas you want to order. And so I set that up in here. And those parameters are made up of entities. And so I've got an entity for topping, size, and then they have a pre-built one for numbers for being able to parse out different numbers. And then those entities are tied to a list of phrases. So for pizzas, the LUIS is going to want to know, what makes up a size, what makes up a topping. And so you can add in some of those examples here. So LUIS kind of can smartly pick out what these things are. And so I put in small, medium, large, and for toppings I have pepperoni, cheese, and sausage. So now that I set that up, if I start typing in these phrases, LUIS should be able to pick out which parts of that sentence go with these parameters here. So I want to say I want to order a large cheese pizza. Do that. And there we go. LUIS is able to pick out that large is the size, cheese is the topping. And then this is also where you can train the model. And so in this case, I said, oh, those things look good. I can submit it. So let's try something else. Kind of the nice thing about this is that it's good at understanding natural human language. So you don't have to type in, like they did in the demo there, you don't have to type in /order and then some sort of command. You can just type in command how you normally talk to a person. So let's say I want an extra cheese pizza. Bring me 5 of them. So there we go. It got the topping and the number there. And go ahead and submit. So let's try something that it hasn't seen yet. Let me just try a topping that it hasn't seen that. I want a large salami pizza. So let's see if we'll figure that out. So in this case, you see that it got large. It got as the size, but it didn't understand that salami was a topping. So if I click on that, and I can label it. So I could say salami is a topping, and I hit submit, and that'll help train the model. So now if someone asks about that in the future, the model should be able to understand that. When you're all done training your model, you can publish it. So if you just go over here to publish, you can say, hey, publish this application, and it's going to give you an API URL. And so now if you've got a bot set up or something else set up, to hit this URL, you should be able to get JSON data back out of it with the results. LUIS is really useful to use with the bot framework that I unveiled earlier. You can make it so it's really easy for people to just type in, whatever they think they would want to type in when talking to a real person, and have the application understand that. Going back to all the cognitive services as a whole, how much is it? Every service that they offer has got a pretty generous free tier. So if I just check that out. So let's go to the Emotion one, for example. You can send it 30,000 transactions a month for free. So they're all pretty generous for just playing around with. They're pretty easy to get going with those. So if you want to get started with it, I listed out a bunch of places you can go to get going with it, and here's a link to the Channel 9 session I went to that kind of details some of that. I guess the only other thing to note is that these cognitive services used to be called Project Oxford, so if you see that name pop up, that's why. So now I want to move on to the next session here, which is Microsoft's Machine Learning APIs. So what are these? These are a set of machine learning services built by Microsoft, and they're set up in a way to make them much more accessible for developers. So I'm just going to show you the promotional video again. It kind of gives you a little overview of what that is like.
With Microsoft Azure Machine Learning and the data you already have, you can get better insights to guide your business. Getting started is easy, and there's no coding required. Azure Machine Learning provides a visual end-to-end data science workflow with state-of-the-art algorithms. This visual authoring environment makes machine learning simple. You can run experiment workflows in parallel and visualize results, so you can see right away which performs the best. Better yet, R scripts can be added directly to your experiments, allowing you to take advantage of extensive, familiar open-source R libraries and your existing analytics code. Microsoft Azure machine learning models aren't just easy to build, they're also easy to share. You can collaborate on experiments by simply inviting others to your workspace. Work in the browser, in the cloud, with no need to install anything else. Microsoft Azure Machine Learning goes from zero to deployed in minutes. Simply prepare your experiment and publish it with just a few clicks. Turning your models into web services has never been easier. Build smart, adaptive applications faster than ever before. You can sell your web services in the Azure Marketplace or put them to work in your line of business applications, where your analysts can run predictive analytics in a familiar environment. Microsoft Azure Machine Learning. Try it today.
So that gives you guys a little overview of what the machine learning APIs are like and what they're for. So I'm just going to kind of, they went really fast in the video there, so I'm going to break down a little bit more of when you'd want to use these machine learning APIs and kind of the process for going through for setting that up. Alright, so let's say we've got a fictional company here, and this fictional company manufactures widgets, and these widgets have been known to fail at a certain temperature and voltage reading as they're being produced. So you can see here that I've created some of that data for this fictional company here. You've got a list of parts, the temperature and voltage that was going through them as they're being manufactured, and then whether or not the part failed. And so as we're producing these widgets, we're going to want to know ahead of time whether or not these products are likely to fail, so we could make any changes in the manufacturer line and prevent the bad failed parts from getting out to the customer. So what we started doing is collecting data on this problem, and we go up to the Microsoft's Machine Learning API, and we go through their drag and drop interface to kind of set up a way to analyze the data from this experiment. We'd upload our data set as we have it there, and we'd run our data through one of their a machine learning algorithm to try to find patterns in this data to see if we can determine what things are causing widgets to fail. And so we can either do this by using custom Python or R scripts to analyze the data and clean it up, or we can use one of their built-in data analyzers. And after you run it through the data analysis, you'll have a trained model that's capable of picking out, based on a set of temperature and voltage readings, whether or not a part is likely to fail. So you can create an API from the results there, and then on the manufacturing line, you could send the part data as you're getting it in real time to this API, and the API can tell you whether or not that part is likely to fail. And so you could adjust your manufacturing line as you go. And so that's one example of how you set up this machine learning experiment and what you do with it. So how much is it to use? As with the other services, Microsoft's got a free tier. So look at that quick. So you see the free tier lets you run 1 hour per experiment for compute time and 10 gigabytes of storage space. So it's pretty generous for just toying around with it and getting started in it. But then they've got their standard rate there. It does look like it gets pretty expensive for the larger experiments, but it's free at least to toy around with. And if you want to learn more about it, I have a link to their site there, and I have a link to the Build Channel 9 presentation. And I'd say out of all the sessions I went to at Build, this was by far my favorite. The presenter was very knowledgeable on the subject and it was very informative there. And he gave you he kind of walked you through an example of setting up the machine learning application and how to do data science. So if you're going to watch one of the videos from Build, I would watch this one. And last session I'm going to go through is the Windows 10 IoT Core. So what is it? Well, IoT stands for Internet of Things. So it's a version, the Windows 10 IoT Core is the Windows 10, a version of Windows 10 optimized for small devices with or without displays. So the Internet of Things is basically any sort of device that, small device that's going to connect with the Internet. It's a stripped down version of Windows 10, so all new versions of Windows 10 are kind of built on top of this core Windows 10, so it makes it, if you do development for an IoT device using Windows 10 IoT Core, it makes it pretty easy to port to other devices that are running Windows 10. And I'm just going to give you a little example there of what something they've done with the Windows 10 IoT Core.
Welcome Masato Yudo. I unlocked the door for you. Please come in.
Welcome to Microsoft's Windows on Devices, where we bring together devices, sensors, cloud, and your imagination. This is our Windows IoT door security prototype. Using facial recognition, it identifies and greets the visitor by name and automatically unlocks the door for them. Now let's dig into the details. The brains of our solution runs on Windows 10 IoT Core, running on Minoboard Max hardware. A standard USB camera is attached to the device's USB port. A monitor and speakers are attached to the device's HDMI out. We use a GPIO pin on the device to control a relay switch. The relay switch in turn opens and locks the door lock. The doorbell button is attached to a GPIO pin as well. Finally, we use a cloud-based API, Project Oxford Face API, for facial recognition. So what happens when a stranger approaches the door?
So that gives you a little overview of how to set up one of these Windows 10 IoT devices. This one in particular is using the Face API that I talked about earlier to be able to match a user with a face, and so it's looking at their face, seeing if they're in their database or not, and whether or not to let them in. So if you want to use Windows 10 IoT Core, if you want to know what it's compatible with, it's Raspberry Pi 2 and 3 are both compatible with it. 3 uses their new Insider preview that anyone can get. Arrow, Dragon Board, Minoboard Max, so basically all the popular IoT or like little IoT devices out there, you could use them with Windows 10 IoT Core. So why would you want to use this when you could use whatever else you could find out there? The Windows 10 IoT Core is pretty easy to get started with. In fact, if I just go to their website, I can kind of show you how easy it is to get going with it. So say you just purchased a new Raspberry Pi or something like that. If you want to get started with it, just click this. So you got the new Raspberry Pi 3. You want to install it onto an SD card, and you want to use the IoT Core Insider Preview. It's compatible with Raspberry Pi 3. Hit next, and it tells you all the steps for downloading it, setting up your device, and then writing your first application on it. So they show you here how to create a little application that blinks a light there, and they've got lots of code examples in here. And it makes it really easy to use to get started with it. So some other reasons you might want to use it is that if you build what's called a Universal Windows Platform application on it, you can deploy that application to your IoT device, and you can deploy it out to any other Windows device, so a Windows tablet or Windows PC. So it's great for scaling up if you want to start with something small and see how it scales to large devices. It's easy. The Windows 10 like IoT Core framework there makes it really easy to access the board's built-in functionality and the pins. So I'll show you a little example of that here. So here's the example of all of the Raspberry Pi 2 and 3 pin mappings. Little map there. And if we scroll down to the code, if we want to access some of the pins on there, we can just use this GPIO library there and initialize a GPIO controller. And if we want to open pin 5, all we have to do is say GPIO.open pin 5. We can send and we can just send, write a high or basically an on or off or a high or low value to that pin, and it'll take care of the rest. So from what I saw there, Windows 10 IoT Core makes it really easy to get set up with these devices and actually do things with them if you're not as well versed in hardware. So what languages are supported? You can use Arduino wiring, C#, JavaScript, C++, Node. There's the whole variety of languages you could use that you can easily get started with Windows 10 IoT Core. So if you want to know what you need to get started, all you need is a board. So any of the ones I listed earlier, Raspberry Pi 2 or 3, whatever. Microsoft sells their own starter packs that come with the boards and some additional goodies to get you going. Visual Studio, you can get the Community Edition for free. And then the IoT Core dashboard you download off their site. And then you could just go to this link here to see what it's like to get started. If you want some project ideas, I listed a couple spots for that here, and there's some all over the internet. One of the ones they were showing off at Build was kind of cool. It was what they call a magic mirror. It's just a display behind a sheet of glass, and when you walk up to it, it'll use the Face API to sign you in, and then it'll display any data assigned to you as a user there. So it can display, weather in your area or quote or whatever else you want to have it show when you sign into it there. So that was a fun little, and you can see the code for that here. So lastly, I just want to give you guys my thoughts on the HoloLens. I got a chance to try that on there. There was about a 20-minute demo of walking around the surface of Mars and getting a little explanation of what the Mars rovers are doing out there. So what I liked about it was I thought the positional tracking worked very well. I was able to walk around. It's about like a 20-foot room, and I was able to walk around there, and it felt like every step I was taking in real life was matching a step along the surface of Mars there, and it just felt like that worked well. I could also move my head up and down and left and right, and I could, if you look at that little drill site there, I put my head over the hole looking down into it, and I could see down into the hole there, so all that felt like it worked really well. The graphical quality is pretty good, especially since it's not tethered to any other device. I was actually impressed by how good things looked in the little demo there. Positional sound quality worked really well, so as people were speaking off to my left inside the augmented reality environment there, I could look over and I could see them, and I can easily tell where people were speaking. Kind of my biggest complaint with it was the very small viewing window, so it was kind of looking like I was looking through a screen like this. It was kind of very hard. I kind of had to strain to make sure I was looking through the augmented reality portion of the lens there instead of just what looks like sunglasses around it. It's just a darkened screen. Price tag is also a huge downside. It's $3,000 right now, and I'd say really at this point it's going to be just for commercial use and not really so much for playing around with. And then possibly the fit. I had a hard time getting it to fit on my head correctly. The screen was either up too high or too low. Maybe if you fiddle around with it for a lot longer, it'll be okay, but I had issues with it. And I can't comment on the gestures, the voice commands, and being able to overlay augmented reality images over existing reality objects. None of those were part of the demo, so I can't comment on those. So my final thoughts on Build was whether or not it would be a good decision to go in the future. It'd be good to go if you wanted to talk to Microsoft staff and you've got a question on an existing product that you're working on. There are lots of them there on site, and they were all very willing to help with answer those questions. They're very knowledgeable. Potentially, if you're looking for third-party extensions or solutions as well, a lot of vendors set up there, and a lot of them had discounts there, or representatives from their office that you could talk to them and work out any problems that you're having if you're using it already. What I didn't like about it so much is that I thought a lot of the sessions were very mixed quality. Some of the sessions were basically just a copy of what was in the keynote, and having just seen the keynote, I felt like I was wasting my time in a lot of the sessions there. And so there were a few really good ones, but overall I was kind of disappointed in the quality for a convention of this price. The hands-on sessions that were new this year were just GitHub tutorials. They'll have Microsoft proctors there, but really there wasn't anything special there that you couldn't just do on your own time, and it just they were entertaining, but it didn't really feel like there's anything special that warranted the limited space they have and getting in line and all that. There's no giveaways this year. This is the first year they weren't doing any hardware giveaways. Normally they give away about $1,000 of free stuff, and that kind of helps justify the price tag of sending people out there. But this year they'd raised the price and didn't not doing any giveaways at all. That you'd be entered for a chance to win a Surface Book, but that's all there was. So lastly is the convention is very expensive for $2,300 and the hotel and the flight out there. I don't know if the sessions there really justify the price of the convention there. I've gone to a lot of other conventions and coding conferences that have had much better quality for cheap or free. So overall, I would make sure you take this stuff into account if you're considering going to build. And the other thing is all the sessions are all posted online after the convention there. So really by going, you're not really getting that much else out of it unless you're looking to talk to a vendor or a Microsoft staff member in person there. That's really, I feel like, the biggest benefit of going to the convention. So I just included, this was my reference there for a link to all the sessions there that Microsoft recorded. You can all find them through Channel 9 there. And if you have any other questions or comments on the video, send me a message or a comment down in the space below there. I'd love to hear it, and I'll respond to you as soon as I can get back to you. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.